There are also new developments this morning in the case of 10 Americans arrested in Haiti. They're expected to get a hearing at 10 o'clock Eastern this morning. The government there says they were trying to take 33 children out of the country without permission. Haiti says that the Baptist missionaries should be sent back to the U.S. since the court system was devastated, just like almost everything else in the quake. And this morning, some of the parents are admitting to CNN that they gave their young children away, hoping a brighter future was waiting for them.
I put them on the bus with the Americans with my own hands. I played with them up until the last minute. Then I kissed them both goodbye and told them, "Don't forget, Daddy."
The Haitian Prime Minister is saying it is not up to the parents, though, or the kids, or the missionaries. He says that the 10 should be tried in court, if not in Haiti, then in the U.S. Wherever it may happen, he says that they are kidnappers who didn't obey the law.
For what I know until now, it's a kidnapping case. If we had some related parents involved in that operation, the children certainly were not fully willing to go because in some case, for what I heard, that they were asking for their parents, they wanted to return to their parents. So in any case, religious or not, it's not acceptable.
But a pastor says his church members, 5 of whom are now behind bars in Haiti, were not trying to steal the kids. He says there were plans to build an orphanage for Haitian children in the Dominican Republic long before the earthquake hit. Then when the disaster did strike, they improvised the whole thing. Dan Simon caught up with him in Idaho.
The goal really was exactly that, to go into Haiti, rescue children that might otherwise be victims of human trafficking, bring them to the Dominican Republic, give them some medical and physical aid that they might not otherwise have.
And the goal was to keep them in the Dominican Republic, not bring them eventually to the United States.
You know, Dan, there's no telling, maybe adoptions would be at some point in the future, but that certainly wasn't the purpose of this trip at all.
And the goal, they were going to acquire some land, long term, they were going to acquire some land, build an orphanage, a church, and a school. But then the quake happened.
Yes, sir. And, you know, January 12th brought a lot of emotion for a lot of folks and really a great desire for folks that had needs down in Haiti. And so these people in particular had a desire to go and simply help those who might have needs there.
And how did they get these children, the 33 children who were with them?
You know, Dan, we don't have a lot of knowledge of exactly how that took place, just because communication's been very, very limited with our team. We haven't had any communication with them since Friday. And so our understanding, at least our directives were, and we asked them to work specifically with founded orphanages so that we could establish that these children were indeed orphans, so that you avoid the problem of a child that might be on the side of the road and may appear in need, but whose parents may be simply a matter of blocks away.
So what happens now?
Dan, now we're just making a passionate plea to get our people home, get these Americans home where they belong.
I also spoke to one member here whose wife is detained in Haiti, and he told me that he felt like the U.S. Embassy was not doing enough to secure the release of the Americans. Another relative told me that if the Haitian government would just understand in terms of the preparations of what went into all of this, that they would realize that this church really had the best of intentions. John and Kieran, back to you.
Dan Simon for us this morning. Dan, thanks. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to talk with adoption expert Dr. Jane Aronson, who just returned from Port-au-Prince, and Georg Villet, a spokesman for the orphanage that is caring for the children who were caught up in the middle of this fight. You're caring for these children, George, at your facility there. What do you make of what happened? The Haitian government is calling this child trafficking. The people who were involved say, no, that's just not the case. I mean, are they traffickers? Were they just misguided in what they were doing? What do you think?
I don't really know it. I can't judge about their intentions. I know that these children since 3 days are now in our SOS Children's Village. And there we give them the care they need and the attention they need, and also psychological treatment, because they are still very confused. They are still very, very scared about the situation, because some of them did not even know what's going to happen with them. And it can't be in the best interest of a child to separate families, because many of them still have lived with their parents.
Yeah, that's what we heard, that in fact Carl Penhall went to the village where these children were from, many of them, and said that most of them, Dr. Aronson, were not orphans. They did have parents who, we should say, willingly gave up their children, saying, we can't care for them, can you help? I mean, what do you make of all this?
I think people are very misinformed and ignorant about the importance of children being allowed to be as close as they can to family, and to remove children physically from a local area where they might have an opportunity to be reunited with their family, I think is just really misdirected.
George, how much of that are you seeing down there in Haiti, where people are in such dire straits, such difficult situations, that if an aid or relief organization comes along, they say, I can't take care of my child, could you please take care of him or her for me?
The situation is really terrible, and we are trying as SOS Children's Villages to build up safe shelters for a few hundreds of children. But these, for me, it's still surprising. How can you have the idea to bring children out of a country? Because the situation is quite clear. SOS Children's Villages and all other organizations stated 10 days ago, please stop this pressure for international adoption, because this opens the doors not only for adoption but also for crime. The UN and the Haitian government are on the same, in the same line, and the government of Haiti stopped to bring out children 8 days ago. We have to keep the children in here. We have to try to reunion families. We have to trace these families, and in the meanwhile giving children a safe shelter, and not separating children from their existing families. There are thousands of unaccompanied children. There will be many orphans remaining, but why taking children away from an existing family?
Well, Dr. Aronson, what do you think about this idea of the rush to adopt Haitian children? Because certainly one of the big stories in the aftermath of the earthquake has been all of these orphans. Some of the facilities that they were housed in have collapsed. They don't have a place to live immediately, and people are rushing in to try to adopt these children or push forward adoptions that were already in the works. You know, we saw the governor of Pennsylvania come back with 50-some-odd kids the other day.
I don't think that's really what happened. Let me just explain to you that I think the United States government, the State Department, put together, I think, very reasonable provisos, if you will, parole, and also the follow-up of all visas that had already been in the works for adopted children. There are approximately 800 children being adopted by American families, and probably another 6,000 to 7,000 for other countries. All of those children have been assigned to families. This is not a rush for adoption. These are families that already were connected. The children were assigned, the papers were done. So I think the expediting of those adoptions was perfectly reasonable. I think the attention paid to that is the issue. I think people are not rushing to adopt. I think people want to adopt. That's nice. But we're all trying to tell people that children need to be taken care of in their country if they've not been assigned, that children need to stay in their local communities so they can be reunited with known family.
But what about what George said? I mean, George said he doesn't like this idea of people coming in to adopt, so obviously somebody's doing it.
No, there's no adoption that hasn't been already in the works. The queue is set. The expedited adoptions were clearly set up based on the papers going through the system. So that's not correct. That's definitely, I think, a very confusing idea that we don't want to give to people. Those adoptions were all set up. I think, though, that when people come to us now and say, I want to adopt a Haitian orphan, I think we need to tell them that that's not the direction we want to be in. The direction at this point is the focus on the children who need our services, and that's in country.
Right. You know, George, as we said, our Carl Penhall went up to a village where many of these children were from and found destitute parents who weren't able to care for their children. What is your organization doing? What can you do to try to reunite these children with their parents?
We are an international organization. We are working since 60 years in the child care. And what we now are going to do is, as I mentioned before, we want to give a few hundreds of children a safe haven, a safe place in our village, and then tracing the families. And from these 33 children, we already know a lot of the families. We are in contact with the existing families, but this is duty of the social welfare system now in Haiti to decide at what time we can give reunion these children with their families, because it must be really sure why have they been on this bus, what were the reasons, and we need to be sure that we are giving them back and tomorrow they are sitting on another bus.
All right.
Because what I mentioned before, taking a child out now of Haiti, and not only these 33, we're talking about taking children out, is always running in the risk to separate children from their family, because there's a lot of registration work and a lot of reunion work to do in the next months to come.
All right. Obviously, a lot of work to do. George Villett, thanks very much for being with us. Dr. Jane Aronson, great to see you this morning. Thank you, too. Karen?